Gestalt language processing is a term that's very popular right now, and it's used to describe a way some children learn language in larger chunks or whole phrases rather than starting with single words and building up. Our typical way we would think is you might learn juice and then later, I want juice. But when we look at Gestalt language processing, a child might learn the full phrase, do you want juice, and use that as a full unit. So in this example, maybe a child who has learned language in chunks might say, do you want juice, when communicating that in fact they do want juice. But they've heard that said every time they get juice, what they've heard is, do you want juice? So they've associated that phrase with getting juice. You'll often hear that Gestalt language processing is very common in autistic children, largely because echolalia is very common in autism. A large-scale study in 2025 found that as many as 90% of autistic individuals use echolalia at some point in their development. But that doesn't mean that 90% of autistic individuals are Gestalt language processors. Research really hasn't definitively given us an answer for this. In fact, research at this time doesn't really support labeling children as Gestalt language processors. But what I think is helpful for us to recognize is that language learning is rarely one way or another way. All of us learn some language in chunks, and we learn some language in more analytic ways or word by word ways.